Good morning. My name is Paul Dalzell, and I am the worship coordinator of this, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome all of you, our members, our friends, and if this is your first time here, we welcome you and thank you for being here. You came here looking for something this morning. It might have been a connection with others, a community, a place to ground yourself, inspiration, or refuge from a world gone mad. Whatever brought you here, we are glad it did. We have a legacy of deeds, not creeds. Our very symbol, the flaming chalice, was created to help hundreds of thousands of refugees and immigrants leave Nazi Germany through the port at Lisbon, Portugal, by the Unitarian Service Committee. Deeds, not creeds, with love at the center. Please join us in singing our welcome song. We sing it twice, and if you feel comfortable doing so, greet those around you with a smile, a nod, or a hello. The words are in your order of service and on the screen.
Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Please check your insert for goings-on here at UUC this coming week and in the near future. Two I would like to mention are the SOAR Pet Supply. The UUC RE Kids are starting a fundraiser to support the SOAR Pet Food and Supplies, which comes up on the third Sunday in March. The pet supply portion of SOAR's mutual aid focuses on raising money and supplies to hand out much-needed food and other pet necessities during SOAR's third Wednesday mutual aid. In the meantime, if you want to check out the Amazon wish list, there is a QR code on the back of the order of service. Yes, it is on the back of the order of service. I will say this. I watched the pet lady bring in literally hundreds of pounds of food before the last mutual aid meeting. Hundreds. She ran out in 20 minutes. We could really use your help. And the UUC auction. The auction committee has been busy working behind the scenes to put on the perfect auction on May 28th. Right now, we are still asking groups and individuals to commit to donating baskets.
It's March 28th.
What did I say? That's impossible. It says March right there. On March 28th, this month, on the 28th, we are asking people to commit to donating baskets and other larger items for the event. If you're interested in donating, please contact Sarah. For our chalice lighting this morning, we inherit this free faith from the brave and gentle by Audette Fulbright Folsom. Please read it in unison with me as Maria lights our chalice. We are glad Maria is back. Yeah. This light we kindle is set in the lamp of our history. We inherit this free faith from the brave and gentle, fierce and outspoken, hearts and minds that have come before us. Let us be worthy inheritors of this faith, and through our good works, pass it boldly to a new generation. We come to this sanctuary, whether in person or virtually, to connect with our community, sharing our joys, our celebrations, our sorrows, our concerns, our peace, and our needs helps our community become closer and stronger. And that is the community we all need in these times. We have joys, grateful for more daylight and daffodils in bloom. Forsythia and daffodils blooming, hope springs eternal. We have joy for our discussion group speaker. It's someone Joe Solomon recruited to run for magistrate. Yay. And joy for SOAR, suing the state for their proposed elimination of methadone clinics. Absolutely. Our own Sarah Stone is quoted in the Gazette article. Also joy for this and all the communities we are a part of, for those who hold us close, those who care, and those we care for. We also have some sorrows. Carol is in Thomas Hospital and would like visitors. Will not resume the kids' lead for 4 months or more. And someone is grieving the loss of an old friend who died unexpectedly. So sorry. And sorrow for war. My own editorial on that. Sorrow for Trump's war, inspired by the Heritage Foundation, called a holy war by the Christian Zionist movement, requested by the Israeli government and Iran's neighbors, who are back in another war in the Middle East that will only hurt ourselves and the people of the world. For all these joys and sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, those in your hearts, may we remember shared joy is multiplied and shared sadness is diminished. Please read with me in unison Our Covenant to Each Other by James Vila Blake. Love is the spirit of our faith and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Let's take a moment to sit and breathe, to meditate, to ponder, to pray if you wish, but most of all to sit here in community. Please relax in your chairs. Plant your feet on the floor, square your shoulders. Feel free to close your eyes or unfocus them or gaze into our chalice flame. Breathe. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. Settle into this moment, this space. I've been working out Sleepy Creek in Hurricane for a few weeks. Thursday was rainy, so when I got there, and all day long, the spring peepers were going off. That sweet sound of spring was echoing through the woods above the house I'm working at. It made me look around. No redbuds yet. No sarvisberry were blooming, not yet. but they will be soon. The hills were still shades of grays and browns. There were some small green things coming up, and I did see some crocuses in a yard the other day. Spring is coming. I wondered if it was in Iran, too. Did those little girls see early signs of spring on their way to school last Saturday? I bet they did. I'm sorry, but that's where my mind took me. Later that day, I learned that over 60 students from Capitol High, including our own Oliver Carter, walked out of school and went to the state capitol protesting ICE. I hope you are as proud of them and him as I am. We are going to be okay. Regardless of what our leaders do, we are going to be okay. There are young people like that young man next door in the world. Spring is going to come. The peepers told me so just the other day. In a few days, the white of the sarvice berries will appear, and a week or so later, we'll see the purple of the red buds on the hillsides. We have work to do, but we are going to be okay. In the blurb in the weekly newsletter, I promised you a brief look at Unitarian Universalist history. So back in 230 AD, thank you, Origen of Alexandria wrote a treatise called On the First Principles. It described in part the oneness of God and apokatastasis, which is basically universal salvation, making him, in essence, the first UU. Some considered him a heretic. He was not the last Unitarian or Universalist to be called that. And just about 30 years later, Sabellius taught that God was a single and indivisible, with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit being three modes or manifestations of one divine person. This view was often also considered heretical, even though he had many followers. And at about the same time, Paul of Samosata, a patriarch of Antioch, exposed the same ideas and was later deposed as bishop by a synod of 70 bishops, priests, and deacons. At this time, of course, people, Christians, were spread out. The only way to pass ideas, to communicate, was either to travel long distances or to write letters, as Paul from the Bible did. And there were a lot of different beliefs in Christianity. Christianity is an argument. It's closer to say, really, that there are Christianities, plural, rather than one Christianity, because there have always been different versions and expressions of the tradition in different places. Some believed that Jesus was closer to human than God, Maybe he was a prophet or divinely inspired with special wisdom, or just a great teacher who showed us a new way. But they believed he wasn't part of a trinity, not a God, not one and the same with God. Or there were some people early on who believed that God was in Jesus in the same way that God is in all of us, in you and me. It was just that Jesus knew on this different level and lived it so much more clearly, and that changed the impact he had on the Roman Empire. At the same time, there were a lot of people who believed in universal salvation. It wasn't called universalism yet. In those first 600 years or so of Christianity, there were 6 main theological schools. 4 of them were basically universalist. One taught annihilationism, and the last taught endless torment. This was about the time when the Romans decided to make Christianity their official state religion. So the Roman government called councils of church elders from all these different places together, basically to say, let's set down some rules finally for this religion. One of them was the infamous Council of Nicaea, where, amongst other things, the presbyter Arius held that because God created Jesus, Jesus was lesser than God, not co-equal. It was rumored that St. Nicholas, yes, that St. Nicholas, slapped Arius, which offended the Emperor Constantine, who then had Nicholas's hand chopped off. That rumor seems to have been started in the late 1500s, though, some 1,200 years later, so with a grain of salt. Over time, these councils and church leaders, they built up an official church doctrine for Christianity, which made everything outside of that official doctrine a heresy. Again with the heresy. Our Unitarian and Universalist roots go back to those first heretics, because there have always been heretics in and around Christianity. Part of those heresies are 2 points: that God was not 3 persons, but one, and that God loved us too much to condemn us to eternal damnation. Interestingly, to me at least, in the 7th century, proponents of a revisionist school of Islamic studies viewed early Islam as a Unitarian Christian group. Gunter Lulling, who argued that the original Quran was a Unitarian Christian text that was opposed to the Trinity. I did promise to make this brief, so let's jump ahead about 1,000 years, shall we? In 1517, Martin Luther published the 95 Theses, launching the Reformation. And in 1531, Michael Servetus, a Spanish theologian, physician, cartographer, Renaissance humanist, and who was the first European to correctly describe the function of pulmonary circulation, wrote on the errors of the Trinity, which rejected the Trinity. Servetus was denounced by John Calvin, a principal instigator of the Protestant Reformation, and burned at the stake for heresy by order of the city of Geneva's governing council on October 27th, 1553. He was 42 years old. At about the same time this happened, in what we think of as civilized Europe, in Transylvania, Ferenc David founded the Unitarian Church of Transylvania in 1568. It's the oldest continuing Unitarian denomination in the world. Gosh, you'd think history was written by Protestant Europeans, wouldn't you? By the 1700s, in England, Unitarianism was a Protestant sect with roots in the Anabaptist radicals of the English Civil War. They began to become a formal denomination in 1774 when Theophilus Lindsay organized meetings with Joseph Priestley, founding the first avowedly Unitarian congregation in the country at Essex Street Church in London. In 1791, Lindsay and his colleague, John Disney, were behind the first organized denominational Unitarian society, formerly the Unitarian Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge and the Practice of Virtue by the Distribution of Books, but more simply known as the Unitarian Book Society. Unitarianism was not fully legal in the United Kingdom until the Doctrine of the Trinity Act of 1813, a bill known as the Unitarian Relief Act, or as the Unitarian Toleration Bill. Meanwhile, on the Universalist front, with the rise of ideological Calvinism, which taught that God neither sought out nor wanted salvation for all mankind, and strictly held that divine omnipotence meant that God created those he foresaw as destined for damnation without mercy. Universalism was under attack. Universalism was brought to the North American colonies in the early 18th century. And North American Universalism was active and organized. This was seen as a threat by the Orthodox Calvinist Congregationalists of New England, such as Jonathan Edwards, who wrote prolifically against Universalist teachings and preachers. John Murray and Elhanan Winchester are usually credited as founders of the modern Universalist movement and founding teachers of universal salvation. Do you know the story of Universalist John Murray? It's kind of a UU miracle. Story time, as the kids on TikTok say. This is from the Tapestry of Faith on the UUA website. As a young man, John Murray had excellent fortune. He had a fine education, a steady job, a loving wife, and a young son. Life was good. Then suddenly, everything changed. John Murray's wife and their son became sick and died. John lost his job, lost all his money, and was put in jail because he could not pay his bills. John was a very religious man, a Universalist, who had even preached about a loving God. Now he was not so sure what he believed. He felt his life was over. Friends urged him to go someplace where he could start again. He sailed for America on a ship named the Hand in Hand. The wind blew the ship toward their destination, New York. But then fog rolled in, and the ship ran aground on a small town called Good Luck, New Jersey, instead. John and a few others volunteered to leave the ship, go on land, and get directions and supplies. As he was walking ashore, John saw a farmhouse with a small chapel beside it. It belonged to Thomas Potter. Thomas Potter greeted John, gave him food for everyone on the ship, and invited John to come back and have dinner with him that night. When John came back, Thomas Potter showed him the chapel. Potter said that he believed in a loving God who wanted to accept all people into heaven. John said he believed the same thing. Thomas told John that he had built the chapel years before and was waiting for God to send him a minister. You, John, are that minister. I waited for you a long time. John did not want to hear this. He was not a preacher anymore, and he was determined to never preach again. Yet Thomas Potter seemed confident that John was the Universalist preacher he waited for, and he asked John to preach on Sunday. I can't preach on Sunday, said John, because as soon as the wind changes, my boat will set sail and I must be on it. If the boat has not sailed by Sunday, will you preach? Asked Thomas Potter. If I am still here on Sunday, I will preach, he said. Well, no wind blew, no ship sailed. John Murray preached on Sunday morning, September 30th, 1770, in the chapel Thomas Potter built for him many years before. John Murray went on to help found Universalism in America. He's one of the ancestors of our faith, and we, as Unitarian Universalists, owe a special thanks to Thomas Potter. It was his hospitality that brought John Murray back to the pulpit. Now, from 1725 to 1825, Unitarianism was gaining ground in New England, and to some extent elsewhere. The first distinctive manifestation of the change was the inauguration of Henry Ware as professor of divinity at Harvard College in 1805. The Unitarian Universalist Association was founded in Boston in May of 1825. The Universalists are slightly older. The Universalist Church of America was founded in 1793. I told many of you last year about the Unitarians in America springing from, of all places, the Puritan religion. 20,000 or so Puritans came here in the Great Migration of the 1630s, and they were primarily concerned with a theology of organization, how churches ought to be organized, who in these churches should have authority, and why. They practice congregational polity, that form of church governance in which members of the local church are united on an equal footing, not by assent to a creed, but by entering into a covenant. Each church wrote its own covenant. This revolutionary thrust of the Puritan covenant and polity is given voice especially in two words, unto us. By the close of the 18th century, many of the largest churches, especially but not exclusively in eastern Massachusetts, had become markedly liberal in theology. Their ministers and lay members were openly, though not confrontationally, Unitarian. They rejected as unbiblical the traditionally held Calvinist doctrines of original sin, total depravity, predestination, and the Trinity. They adopted positive doctrines of the nature of humanity and the possibility of continuing moral, spiritual, and intellectual growth. Universalism was a more evangelical faith than Unitarianism. After officially organizing in 1793, the Universalists spread their faith across the eastern United States and Canada. Hosea Ballou became the denomination's greatest leader during the 19th century, and he and his followers, including Nathaniel Stacy, led the way in spreading this faith. Universalists became the first denomination to ordain women to the ministry, beginning in 1863 with Olympia Brown. Other preachers followed the advice of Universalist publisher Horace Greeley and went west. One such person was Thomas Starr King, who is credited with defining the difference between Unitarians and Universalists. Universalists believe that God is too good to damn people, and the Unitarians believe that people are too good to be damned by God. The Universalists believe in a God who embraced everyone, and this eventually became central to their belief. The lasting truth is found in all religions, and that dignity and worth is innate to all people, regardless of sex, color, race, or class. During the period after 1885, the influence of Ralph Waldo Emerson with his idealism and Theodore Parker with his acceptance of Christianity as an absolute religion became predominant, modified by the more scientific preaching of Minot Judson Savage, who found his guides in Darwin and Herbert Spencer. Universalism was spreading. There were activists for the abolition of slavery, for women's rights, and for Universalists who were really active in movements for social change. Clara Barton, the Civil War nurse who founded the American Red Cross, she was a Universalist. Both traditions moved to being communities of faith that were more concerned with what people believed, to communities that were more concerned about what our beliefs call us to do in the world, who our values call us to be, for ourselves and for each other. If we are all equal and beloved, we are all capable of growth, compassion, and character. Then that has a profound impact on how seriously we take our lives and the lives and well-being of our neighbors. Over the course of the 1900s, Unitarian and Universalist churches were going through a bit of a sea change around this, a bit of an evolution. They had long considered themselves part of the Christian family, this long tradition of Jesus followers. But they had also spent hundreds of years at this point on the far progressive edge of any kind of mainstream Christianity. Hey, we're almost in the 20th century now. As the two denominations found themselves working on more and more issues, including social movements on labor and economic justice, voting rights, and gay rights issues, they decided to merge and start their own new religious movement. As I hope you know, the Universalist Church of America merged with the American Unitarian Association in 1961 to form the Unitarian Universalist Association. And the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Kanawha Valley was formed in 1953, later becoming the Unitarian Universalist Congregation when we moved into this building in 1994. Now, strictly speaking, modern-day Unitarian Universalism is not Unitarian or Universalist in theology. Despite its name, this denomination does not necessarily promote either belief in one God or universal salvation. It's a blend of the Unitarian and Universalist church systems in America. Though there are Unitarians within the UUA, there is no creed or doctrine that one must affirm to join a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Instead, like our faith ancestors, the Puritans, we believe in being in covenant with each other. This makes it very different from many other faith groups. When the two denominations joined, they did something really interesting. They dropped their formal identification as a Christian denomination. Again, they decided at this point that the focus would be on our shared values and principles and what those values call us to do in the world, rather than on a creed or a set of scriptures that tell us the story of how things came to be now. It's important, I think, to know it's not that we can believe anything we want as UUs. Although today the majority of Unitarian Universalists do not identify themselves as Christian, we have really clear values and beliefs. It's just that our most important beliefs are not so much about what happened long ago and far away, or about which ancient stories are true. Our most important beliefs are about the value and the worth of people in the world right now, and about how we should treat each other. Oh, thank you. That was a lot, wasn't it? And I think I failed on the brief part. I'll hit on the time after 1961 another time, okay? I do think it's important to know our history. And as usual, I learned a lot writing this. I won't lie, this was homework for my CLM, the Commission Lay Minister program I'm a part of. Under the first section of the list of requirements is in that program, it serves the larger Unitarian Universalist faith. It lists basic knowledge. One of the objectives is demonstrates familiarity of UU history. I have that now, don't you think? If not brief, I hope it wasn't too long. There's only about 1,800 years, and I really hope it wasn't boring. Our closing words today are Be About the Work by Andrea Hawkins Camper. May we see it as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is answering the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now, to be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of building our beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience.